Hello everybody and welcome back to a brand new video where we have reached the day of the first part of the finale of Series 12. Today, in just a few hours time, we'll be watching Ascension of the Cybermen. And so of course I left it a little bit late, but I've got to do a little preview of it and let you guys know what I think might happen, what we know already about this episode, and just a few theories in general when we're literally like, what, 4 or 5 hours away from the episode airing? First thing to say, reasonably exciting news, hopefully for you guys, is that I will be doing a reaction to tonight and next week's episode, The Timeless Children. I'm afraid it will only be me and not Megan as well, as she's not here, as she's back at her own university. But hopefully this evening after the episode, if I can edit it in time, you will be seeing me giving my live reaction and live thoughts on this episode and again for next week as well. But yeah, so the Ascension of the Cybermen, what do we know about it so far? Well, it continues pretty much on from what we had at the end of The Haunting of Villa Diodati last week, where we were introduced to the lone Cyberman that Captain Jack had warned about in episode 5, Fugitive of the Jadoon. And so this is a fairly kind of, well, a Cyberman that's not quite complete, as we discussed last week, in terms of still having some emotion, but more from an angry point of view than a nice and caring side point of view, a fairly dark Cyberman, really, who was desperate for this Cyberium, which is some sort of AI thing that contains all the sort of strategies and victories and history of the Cybermen to help him, I guess, defeat people, humans or whoever in the future, I think is the idea. So they've got that now in the far future. We don't know quite when, but it's certainly far in the future. And somehow that's where we're going to pick up the story at sort of the end of a cyber war of some description, where we sort of meet the last few survivors of the human race who are facing off against the lone Cyberman and all the Cybermen in general, I think is the general gist of at least the start of this story. We've seen one brief clip showing sort of on the battlefield with a couple of characters and the introduction of the Doctor and the fam, which I would assume was in the first maybe 5 minutes or so of the episode. It doesn't give too much away about what's going to happen in it, but it certainly looks like it's very much a war-torn future. I think it's planet, not Earth, a sort of far distant planets, I think it's what it's meant to be set on, which is quite cool really, because we've had very little off-Earth stories in this series. Virtually every single story has been predominantly set on Earth, so it's nice to hopefully in this story and probably episode 10 as well to kind of expand out a little bit more. And from what Chris Given has talked about, a sort of space opera type story, I certainly get the impression that we're going to kind of explore a lot of different places over this two-part story. It's fair to say that Chris Given and all the production team have been hyping this story up quite a lot in terms of the promotion for the detriment of the series. I think, given that they've been talking about how each week it's this many weeks till the finale. Oh yeah, there's this episode happening, but it's only this many weeks till the finale, which was bad at the time, but at least we finally made it to here, so hopefully that means that they've been building that because it's worth it, and it will be a really strong story. Now, if we've seen from the promotional photos that we're going to get multiple versions of the Cybermen, we've got, well, what we've seen so far, we've seen the lone Cyberman, we've seen the Cybermen, and also in some of the trailers shots of some sort of new Cyberman that kind of is a mixture of old and new in the way it looks, which I guess will be a new breed of Cybermen going forwards maybe. But I'm quite intrigued at the Cybers, albeit without the Cybers logos. They're not meant to be Cybermen, it's just that design. I'm quite intrigued as to why they've ended up in this episode, and I think it'll be interesting to find that out as well. It's fair to say there's a fair few theories and maybe rumours that this story might end badly for the main characters, or at least by the end of the second part, in terms of Ryan, Graham and Yaz maybe getting cyber converted or just something bad happening to them. And certainly I wouldn't be against that if that happens. I feel like it would be good to kind of change up the dynamic a bit by maybe losing 1 or 2 members of the fam at the end of this series. Now, I know very much it's been talked about another big cliffhanger in this story to end it and lead us into part 2. I don't have any insight into what that may be, though I think one potential theory is they've got quite funny and entertaining and intriguing note that the cast list for episode 10, The Timeless Children, contained a actor called Barak Stremis playing, or Stemis even, playing a character called Fakout, which if you drop 1 letter into that is called Fake Out, and an anagram of Barak Stemis is Master is back. So I would not be surprised if the cliffhanger to this episode is somehow the return of the Master, and maybe he's at the centre of an evil plan or plot or something. Or alternatively, I think it may be something to do with Ruth or the Timeless Child and the whole Gallifrey storyline, which I'm sure will maybe be a bit more of a side plot in this first part, but I think in the second part in particular we'll probably get more focus. I'm very, very intrigued to see how the Cybermen storyline fits into the Gallifrey and Timeless Child storyline, if it does, because it may be they are just completely separate storylines that are kind of interspersed into the same story, or it may be that somehow the Cybermen are involved with this happening. I'm just very, very intrigued to find out how everything is going to link together, really. Certainly, I personally am a sucker for a big, explosive, exciting finale, and I get the impression that's what we're going to get from people who've watched it. They've described it as being a very sort of intense episode, this first part in particular, a very exciting, action-packed action-packed, intense, with a massive cliffhanger at the end of it, which certainly sounds like my cup of tea. I just hope that Christian is able to pull it off and we don't end up with another Battle of Ranskrev Kolos, which I don't think I could go through again. In terms of plot details, I don't think we really know anything more specific than that at the moment. Exactly what this Cyber War is going to sort of contain, or the post-Cyber War is going to contain, where the story's going to take us, we just don't really know. We just know that obviously, at least at some point in this story, there is going to be a significant focus on who the Timeless Child is, what happened to Gallifrey, and something about the Ruth Doctor as well, I think, at some point. But exactly whether it's in this episode or the next one, I really, really don't know, but I'm very intrigued to find out. So guys, I'd love to hear your fan theories down in the comments below. What are your expectations from this episode? Are you looking forward to it? Are you excited for it? Do you think it's going to be an action-packed thriller as an episode, or is it going to be another Battle of Ranskrev Kolos? I'd love to hear your thoughts down in the comments below. But that's just my very, very quick little preview of the episode. So do get watching 7:10 PM on BBC One tonight for Ascension of the Cybermen. I will be live reacting to it, as I say, and trying to get it up as soon after the episode is aired as possible. So I'll see you guys then, but apart from that, I hope you guys have enjoyed this video. Hit that like button, that subscribe button if you're new here, and I'll see you again very soon for the one. Goodbye.